Hello. Today we're going to take a look at one of the really important things you have to do towards the end of your course preparation. Just before launching, you're going to have to think about creating and setting up certificates of participation. Certificates of some sort may be needed for your students who complete the course, but also certificates of appreciation for the teachers who take part in teaching the course. In this video, we'll see how I created the certificate and how I set it up inside Moodle. While it's pretty simple and can hardly be called a masterpiece, it is completely original, and I created all elements of it in a graphics program, and I'll show you how to do that later on. If we take a look at the final section of my course, section 5, we can see that the very final element is a certificate download. Now, that's the certificate that we've just seen. If students want to get the certificate, they just click here and click the Get Certificate button. But there are some criteria to satisfy first. Directly under the clickable link where students can get the certificate, there's the list of criteria. In fact, the certificate at the moment is locked. It's locked unless you belong to the group of students and unless you've satisfied all the requirements for completing this course, which I set up previously. So how did I set it up? Let's go into Edit. Well, for starters, I gave my certificate a name. I might end up accumulating quite a lot of different certificates in the system, and so I want to be able to distinguish easily between one and another. This is coded 01. Here, under Design Options, I uploaded the file that I wanted to use as the background for my certificate. I'll show you how I prepared that later on. The certificate text, you have to be a little careful. There is, if you hit the question mark here, the system will give you a list of shortcuts to place in your text box. I just used a bit of coding. This coding has been set up to allow the correct alignment of text generated by Moodle with the template that I'm using for the background. I'll copy this formula below this video so that you can use it if you want. As you can see, line 4 regards the course name, and the system will insert the course name automatically. Line 8 has been formulated first name, last name. I was having problems getting a username to produce an actual full name of students. Line 6 and 7, these are just spacing codes, so there's probably a better way to do this. I have very little coding experience, so this is a clumsy way of creating the right amount of space for my template. Remember that you can change the font size here, here. You can change alignment, although centered is probably best for a certificate, and you can even play about with font family. I've not done that, I've just left it as it is. Click on Show More, and certificate width and height, which the system gives you by default, I actually matched to the graphics file I was working on, the PNG image file I was working on. These numbers refer to millimeters, and you can do the same in most graphic files, so there's no incompatibility. It won't stop the text aligning properly, but if you've made a nice little pattern design, if there's an incompatibility between the dimensions of the Moodle certificate and your graphics file, the design could end up distorted and look a little odd. For horizontal text position and vertical position, I found, after trial and error again, that 0 for horizontal position and 50 for vertical position work best for me. You can design a pretty picture, a pretty pattern for the back of your certificate if you like. and include text. I haven't done that. There's an others option regarding printing and so on and so forth. I'm just going to leave all those things default. Common module settings, I'm good with. This is extremely important. This section in restricting access is very, very, very important. I don't want my students to be getting the certificate before they finish the course. So I set up restrictions. I did it this way by adding a restriction, making sure they were part of the student group. I'm just repeating what's already up here. You can see this is just a repetition. I'll add this other restriction, course completion. Yes. Okay, so these two are simply a repetition of these two. I'll just delete them just to show you how that works. And that should do it. Save and display. Get certificate. There we go. That's how it turns out. And then there's a bulk operations tab, which allows you, if you want, to choose groups and bulk send to email. It just depends on how you're considering your course completed. You would hit this little button when you're ready to send them off. So that's how you set up the student participation certificate. However, it has to be said, before doing any of that, you have to ensure that you have groups set up. I chose, as you can see here in bolded, the group of students. In order to issue certificates of participation or appreciation to teachers who took part in this course, I need to ensure that I've got a teachers group set up. How do I do that? I go to participants. I go to groups. Okay, so I've already set up a couple of groups. I've got a group of students and a group of teachers set up. That will allow me to issue distinct certificates to the two groups. I'm going to show you how I added the group of teachers. Create group. Teachers 2. Here I would put a description which distinguishes this fictitious second group of teachers. Save changes. I'm not interested in these other little things. Members of teachers 2. I need to add and remove users. Okay, this is the area where I'll add new users to this group. I'm going to add this teacher, and this teacher. It's done. Okay, so now our teacher group has been created. We can go ahead and set up the certificate of appreciation for this group. Add an activity resource. Choose the simple certificate activity. I'm going to give it a name. Now I need a background for my certificate. There's my background. For the certificate text, I'm just going to paste the same code as before. But I need to make sure that I change this value to 0. This works for me. Horizontal text position, 0. Vertical text position, 50. You might have to try different versions to see what works best for you. Access is really important. This is a completely different group. So this time I'm going to choose the group of teachers. I'm also going to add a date restriction, imagining that my course finishes by the 27th of October. So before that date, teachers can't download their certificate. And we're done. Let's see what it looks like. And that's the final result. I'll show you now very quickly how to use a program like Krita, a graphics program, which is a kind of middle-of-the-road option. It's not super basic, but it's not as complicated as Photoshop, to produce something like this, because everything apart from the black writing is in the template. Okay, so we're in Krita now. I'm going to start a new file, set the measurement, the units of measurement to millimeters, and pop in 297 by 210 millimeters.
so that it corresponds with the Moodle certificate and there's no distortion of patterns. Then I go and I'm just adjusting the size here, and I go and hit the brush selection tool. It looks like a little brush. Here I have my options of brushes. I'm going for a pencil. I choose a colour, and I'm going for green. Okay. So I hit the spoke tool. That's not the correct name, but that's what I call it, and I'm just increasing the number of spokes here. And then with my mouse, I just need to sort out the size. I want it quite small, and I start with left clicking, holding the mouse, and then dragging just for a fraction of a second here and there. You can't even see the little, well maybe you can, just this tiny little dot. That's a little pencil I'm using. So I just drag a little bit, but just like a fraction of a second, and let the mouse go. I need to be patient between each intervention I have, because in actual fact this is speeded up. The computer, even though my computer works pretty quickly, it slows down. So you touch see I've changed colour here. You just touch this between the spokes, a circle, a curve, whatever, and let it go, and then you might want to wait until the pattern appears. So I'm using a bigger brush now just to fill out the outer corners, something a bit chunkier because it looks a bit scribbly. Okay, so that's looking good, but we need to get the opacity way down. That's in the Layers tab in the top right hand corner, because otherwise the writing can't be seen. Let's just add another layer, and this time we're going to do the rectangle selection tool. So click and drag it, and we've created a rectangular selection. And this time we're going to go in and invert selection, because I want that little border around the edges to be selected, because then with a thicker brush, which I'm going to make bigger with the pencil tool, and I'm just going to choose white. I'm just going to paint round that border. I'm actually painting over the pattern underneath, so that it creates a white passepartout type effect. So the other way of doing it was just erasing, but it's just to stick to a number of tools, and just cleaned it all around the edge, and that looks rather nice. Yep, that will do. Go back to select all, and then I've just grabbed the rectangle tool. This isn't the selection one, this doesn't select an area. The rectangle tool, the filled in rectangle higher up, actually will draw a rectangle of any colour or type that you want. And now I'm doing a bit of text. Here's the certificate. I'm going really speedy, but you can see I'm just playing about with font style, font size, colour, and positioning of the text. That's too big. Continue, make it smaller, and position. Bob's your uncle. I'll do it again, a different one. If I do them separately, I can, with the dragging tool, just position them to the best possible place for them. There, I've done that. It's too big. Try again. Now I kind of remember the position of the words in the course, followed by the name of the course, which Google provides automatically. So I'm just going by memory, but if I want to be absolutely 100% sure that it's in the right position, I can open up one of the templates or one of the previous certificates that I've created that I know work, that I've already uploaded into Moodle and tried out. I'm doing it just by memory. Okay, that looks fine. That's pretty much the right place. Okay, I'm going to add another layer, and I'm going to choose a lovely red colour. I'm going to go for the multi-brush function tool, and I'm going to use a bigger, thicker brush, and I'm going to produce something kind of solid with a frilly edge. That's the general idea, that's what I'm aiming for. Let's get in closer. No, that's not working. Let's try again, make it with bigger spokes. Yes, that'll do. Okay, so we made a seal which we drag into the corner with that tool there. The one that looks like a cross, the one beside it that looks like a frame allows you to resize. That is the multi-brush tool, the one I call the spokes. And that is the brush tool that you have to activate anytime you want to paint or draw. And that is the rectangular tool that gave me the little frame around the passepartout. Okay, so now with a couple of tools that we just learned, we're going to position and resize the seal. There we go. And add a little bit of text on top. Again, I can play about with font and colour, but it's too big. There we go, that's better. Okay, one last thing to add. I'm going to add in a fake signature. Now normally you would actually turn your own signature into a layer. You probably need a tablet with a pen to do it properly. So I'm just going to do a fake one. Mrs. Head Teacher. Make it dark like ink. Move it about, and there we go. Save as, and then export. Save as keeps it in a critter file, but you need to export it as a PNG in order to be able to use it in Moodle. And once you get used to the technique, let's call it that, you can produce really quickly a variety of filigree patterns and other elements for a whole bunch of certificates. The ones I'm showing you just now, they were done in a matter of minutes each one, because once you get the text positioned correctly, then the filigree pattern is very easy to change. Okay, so hopefully that's been useful to you, and good luck.